This is an introduction to infinitive clauses in German. Here are some examples of infinitive clauses. If you want to say to go home in German, you would say nach Hause zu gehen. Notice that gehen is at the end of the sentence and zu comes right before it. If you want to say in order to go home, you would say nach Hause zu gehen. You use before the clause and zu gehen at the end. If you want to say without going home, you would use ohne nach Hause zu gehen. If you want to say instead of going home, you would say anstatt nach Hause zu gehen. In all of the examples, where was the verb? At the end of the sentence. And all of the examples, what form was the verb in? In the infinitive form. And all of the examples, what preceded the verb? The word zu. Let's try using what we just learned by completing the examples on the next slide on our own before we see the answer. If we want to say to stay fit, the verb is to stay, which is bleiben in German, and fit is the same in German. How would we write this? Fit zu bleiben. Bleiben is at the end in the infinitive form, zu comes before it, and fit comes before that. If you want to say in order to see my aunt, we're going to be using to see, which is sehen, and to say in order to in German, we use with a zu in the infinitive at the end. So how would this look? Meine Tante zu sehen. If you want to say without eating breakfast, this would look similar to the others with zu in the infinitive at the end, but we'll start off with ohne, and we get ohne Frühstück zu essen. Lastly, if we want to say instead of having homework, we would use anstatt with our infinitive at the end, haben, would put zu before the infinitive, and we would get anstatt Hausaufgabe zu haben. If you want to, you can also just say statt Hausaufgabe zu haben, which is also the same thing. What do you think happens when you have a separable prefix verb as your infinitive verb at the end of the clause? Let's try and guess the next one. If we want to say to clean up the kitchen, we're using the verb aufräumen. If you create an infinitive clause with this, it'll look like die Küche, the kitchen, aufzuräumen, to clean up. If you want to say in order to cancel the trip, the verb for to cancel is abbrechen. And you want to say in order to, you're going to be using an zu clause. So how will this look? Die Reise abzubrechen. Notice that zu goes right between the prefix and the regular infinitive verb. Without taking out the trash, we're using an ohne zu clause here. Ohne den Müll rauszubringen. And lastly, instead of calling up my sister, this is an anstatt zu. Calling up is anrufen. Anstatt meine Schwester anzurufen. What do you think happens when you have two verbs? To get to know, to go swimming, to go out to eat, to get repaired. Let's try the next examples. Let's take a look at the verbs that we have here. So we have kennenlernen, schwimmen gehen, essen gehen, reparieren lassen. So if we want to say to go swimming, it would be schwimmen zu gehen. So you might do it a little bit opposite the way that you would say it in English. Normally you would say to go swimming in English. In German you say swimming to go. In order to get to know my cousin. So in German, kennenlernen. So learn to know, lernen, kennen. But in German, you're going to kind of flip-flop it. So you use meine Cousine kennen zu lernen. To know, to learn. Without getting my car repaired. So to get repaired is reparieren lassen. So this will be ohne mein Auto reparieren zu lassen. If you want to say instead of going out to eat, that would be anstatt